Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. Welcome to day 5 of Advent of Tess 2025, and today we're going to use our first hexagon twists of the series, closed hexagon twists. And we'll put open triangle twists on the back, so we'll get to practice our triangle wraps too. We're using a 24 division triangle grid on a hexagon. And if you need instructions on this grid, check out the welcome video, particularly the one after you sign up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent. To see all the details on folding these grids, and also where you can get paper that's already cut out in hexagons in the perfect size. So let's start with that central hexagon. For a closed hexagon twist, I'm going to find the center of the paper, and I'm going to have mountain folds coming out in all 6 directions from this center point, and this is going to be a right-handed closed hexagon twist. So I'm going to have valley folds parallel to these mountains, one space up on the right-hand side. So I can take each of them and rotate them so they're pointing out to the right. And I'm just drawing a little bit of each of these pleats, but we're going to fold them all the way out to the edge of the paper. And actually the easy way to find the center of the paper is to start at the corner by putting in a mountain fold that goes directly to the corner of the paper. And then we can pinch that edge up. Notice I'm not letting this flatten through the center. Then I'll pass that on to my left hand and do the exact same thing with the next corner, bringing a mountain fold to the corner of the paper and putting in a valley above it, making sure to fold both the mountain and the valley, keeping it down on the table so the table holds the previous pleats. I can pass that next pleat into my left and do the same thing again and again. And you might notice that the paper is starting to fight you. Often this happens when there's a bit of a divot where this edge of the paper is coming up. It's not letting the stress release. So what I'm going to do about that is I'm going to let the edges of my paper stay down. This is very 3D in the center now. It's like this far off the table. And I'm going to go around and make sure all of my corners are happily pleated. And with all of my corners happily pleated, I can work those pleats in towards the center, using the table to keep things in place. So I'm keeping all of this down on the table. The way that a lot of beginning tessellation folders get in trouble with this twist is they try and pick it up into the air. It's a reflex I've seen whenever things are hard. You tend to bring them closer to your face. And that makes this even harder. So keep it on the table. And the way I'm going to demonstrate getting this twist down into a flat position is by tapping the top, keeping that tapped so it's pressed down. You know how in canned food with glass jars, there will often be a little button on the top of the lid. We want that button pressed down. And we'll grab. I grab on 3 sides just to have good spacing. I'm not grabbing where the mountain folds hit. I'm grabbing specifically on the side of the hexagon. So tap, grab, And this is where you can't move slowly. You have to give it a sharp twist. Tap, grab, twist. It's going to look kind of crumply, but what we can do is go around, lift up each corner, kind of pull a little bit. You can also lift up a whole pleat and double check to see if the valley fold stayed on a grid line. And you can go around and check all of the pleats if you want. And that's how you get the closed hexagon twist nicely down and in place. There are some other methods, but this is the one that works the best for me. So once we have that hexagon in place, we're going to flip the paper over. Doesn't matter which way you flip the paper. I'm going to orient so I have a pleat headed out horizontally to the right. And this is your sign that your hexagon is folded well. A teeny, teeny, tiny hole on the back. If it's any bigger, make sure to check that those valley folds are still on the grid lines. But yeah, that's how you know that you have a really good hexagon. The next thing we're going to put in is an open triangle twist. And this time we actually are going to fold our open triangles one on each of the pleats and leave the pleat overlaps for later. This is something that only works close into the center. It's not going to be a strategy that helps you repeat the pattern more times. So for placing this open triangle, I'm going to count one spacing out from the closed hole of the hexagon and follow this grid line that's parallel to the mountain fold. I could also say one space out from the folded mountain. We're going to have a valley fold. One space further out than that, we'll have the mountain fold of the same pleat. And since this is an open triangle twist, we are going to outline a grid triangle, a single grid triangle, with our third pleat for the triangle. And we can set up, this is the first time we've seen this, two mountain folds coming exactly together, making a tube. I call this tube pleat spacing. And then that third mountain fold for the triangle has, of course, a valley right next to it. And we can press to squash our open triangle twist. Next, we'll rotate so that the tube, the pair of pleats, is going out to the right. And then we will repeat that step exactly. We're going to find our valley fold one space out from the folded mountain that's next around the center. Then we'll find our mountain fold one space further than that, and we'll make this an open triangle twist outlining the one grid triangle with our third pleat. Putting in our new pleat, we have opened the bottom pleat of the tube, and we've left the pleat from the previous triangle completely flat. Then when we put in our third pleat, this causes a pleat overlap. We are going around the center in a specific direction that's going to make those pleat overlaps easier to open on the opposite side. And then we rotate again, so the tube pleat is off to the right. This time I'll do it without drawing. If you want to see it again with drawing, you can go back to the previous triangle. So I'll put in my valley fold, one space out from the folded mountain, my mountain fold one space further, and then I open the bottom pleat of the tube to put in my third pleat of this triangle with those three mountains outlining one grid triangle. I'm leaving the pleat at the top of the tube fully folded so I can cross it with my new pleat and press to squash and rotate and repeat. I'll put in my valley fold, one space from the folded mountain, mountain fold to complete the tube, open the bottom of the tube from before, putting in the third pleat, spaced to make an open triangle twist. And rotate and repeat. We put in the second pleat so that the mountain folds of these two pleats line up, and then the third pleat to make an open triangle twist. This causes a pleat overlap, and we squash the twist. Now for our final twist, I'm going to do things the same way, and we will have overlaps on both sides. So here we don't have this mountain folded all the way down to match to, but we can still say one space out. We're going to have that valley fold, and then our mountain one space further than that. And for demonstration purposes, I'm leaving these pleats folded in the order that I'm putting them in right now, and we'll pay attention to what that causes on the other side. And then the third pleat, causing the pleat overlap, happens as usual. So I want to grab my paper at this pleat overlap that I was specifically pointing out, the one that's different from all of the rest. The one between the sixth triangle and the first. And that one I'm going to hold in my hand as I flip the paper over. You can see on this side that these are different as well. This one, the fold from an edge of, or from this edge of the triangle kind of going out to the corner is the one that goes straight, and the others, the pleat going kind of to the middle of the edge of the paper is the one going straight. So this pleat overlap is harder to open than the others because of the order that the pleats were folded. And let me show you what that means. I have to open not only this pleat, but also, and I'm using my finger behind here, to push out that fold. And we can go ahead and turn this into a closed hexagon twist. We have two pleats already. I realize I started moving quickly there. That defines the center of the closed hexagon, and then all of the other mountain folds come out from that center, just like we did in the middle. One of the other features we'll see in this pattern is that there's always two spaces between parallel mountain folds, and that's true down here. And that's the only side that we can see it on at the moment. It will become true in other places at the end of the folding. So as I'm putting in these pleats, I'm putting in both the mountain and the valley, even though I'm kind of close to the edge of the paper, and I'm letting this stand up 2 grid spacings from the flat surface. So just the first 2 grid spacings are 3D. Everything else around it is flat. And just like the center closed hexagon, I'm going to bop it, grab it, twist it. The faster you twist, the easier this goes. And then I can poke and prod until all the corners are happy and set that up. Another thing that I'll say is the stiffer your paper is, the easier this twist is to make. It's going to be a lot more difficult to fold these closed hexagons cleanly in a thinner paper like kami or most duo papers. Anything light is going to crumple more when you do that move, Anything stiffer like a sky tone or an elephant hide is going to take that fold quite nicely. The paper I'm using here is sky tone. So we saw that twist go into place. What I want to show you is that the next pleat overlap is easier to open. And by that I mean I'm going to pull out one pleat and boom, there's nothing I have to push out from the back. I'm going to lift a little bit so we can start to see this hexagon outline, but I've got the extensions of these two mountain folds coming in to a particular grid intersection, and I know that I'm going to have mountain folds coming out from there in all 6 directions. This time the mountain fold going down runs into another pleat. It runs into this pleat, and I always count the angle between where the pleats are coming from. So this pleat is coming from this hexagon twist, this pleat is coming from this hexagon down below. The angle between them is 120 degrees. The same angle that we see between pleats in a triangle twist. That makes this a good candidate for a triangle wrap. So for the triangle wrap, I have these mountains coming in, and of course it's harder to draw on mountains than it is to draw on valleys. And I'm going to make a 3-way intersection of mountains. So notice what I did here. I started erasing this mountain fold back to where it touches this pleat coming under, where it touches the mountain coming under. I'm making a 3-way intersection of mountain folds in there. Notice there's 2 grid triangles between these 2 mountains, 2 grid triangles between these 2. And I'm also going to have a 3-way intersection of valleys down below. The 3rd one is tucked up under there. And this area will be flat. And that's our triangle wrap. One way of approaching the triangle wrap for this pattern. I do have a whole video on triangle and compound wraps, the basic wraps for tessellations, that you can see even more details on. So up here with this hexagon, we need to find our remaining pleats. Again, leaving it puffed up as a tower. And one of those other methods for getting the hexagon into place would be to push all of these pleats. And here you might see that wants to settle without rotating. We want to spin it all the way around so that all of these mountain folds going in are straight lines all the way to the corner. So that's another method for folding your closed hexagon. You do want to pay some extra attention with that one to whether your valley folds have stayed on grid lines or not. And again, it's something that only works with stiff paper. Going slow is going to make things even worse if you're using thin paper. And rotating, I'm going to do the exact same thing up here as I did with that last hexagon. So I'm going to open this pleat overlap. Notice as I do that, there's a little pleat overlap here that I'm also releasing. And I'm noticing where these 2 mountain folds meet at a point. I'll go ahead and mark that. And I'm letting the hexagon of grid triangles surrounding that point make themselves more noticeable. So I'm basically pushing so that the edges of that hexagon are mountain folds, and then I'll send a mountain fold out from every corner. First, this one that comes down and needs the triangle wrap. So we're erasing this pleat that's laying on top of the new mountain back until we can tuck the paper under. And then I'll go and set my other new pleats into place. This makes a hexagon tower, and for me personally, I always bop it, grab it, give it a sharp twist around, and deal with any snarls that happen once they're already down. And with the bone folder, those all smooth out nice. Well, if you've already untangled things, then you use the bone folder to smooth out any wrinkles. Do not use the bone folder on tangled paper, that will probably rip it. And what we're doing is we're going around and we're putting in each of our hexagons and leaving these triangle wraps behind to become triangle twists later. Again, this is a strategy that works only because we're very close to the center. It would not work so well for the next ring of hexagons around in this pattern if you were working on a larger grid. But for now, we can move on to the next pleat overlap from those triangles and turn it into a hexagon twist. I'm moving a little bit faster here because we already have 3 examples of putting these hexagon twists into place. And once I have my hexagon tower, I'll bop it, grab it, give it a sharp twist, and smooth it out with my bone folder. Rotating, I'll repeat again, opening up the overlap, finding where the center of my hexagon has to be, the intersection of these mountain folds, and running my new pleats with their mountain folds also coming to that same center. Once I have the pleats in place, I'll put it down on my table. I have that 2 spacing tall hexagon tower that I will bop it, grab it, twist it, and smooth out any wrinkles before smoothing everything and hardening it into place with my bone folder. Rotating once more. The 6th hexagon, we will start the same way by opening our pleat overlaps. The important thing here is to recognize that this top pleat that we haven't seen on the other hexagons is coming from another hexagon. In this pattern, all the pleats from hexagons go to triangles. All the pleats from triangles go to hexagons. So we're finding the place where 2 pleats from triangles meet at a point, and then bringing up that area as our target hexagon. Running the pleat down, we'll put in the same triangle wrap that we've been doing, and then there's still this pleat above that we need to deal with. We're going to put in a triangle wrap, but we're going to approach it from a different direction. We're going to say, okay, the mountain fold in this direction has to be here. The valley fold is going to be 1 space above it. That valley fold is going to continue. Notice I had to push down the mountain in order for the valley to continue until it hits the valley of this pleat down below. Those are going to make a 3-way intersection. And if you recall yesterday's pattern, this is exactly what we did with the triangle twists. And then we're going to let the mountain fold follow the valleys the mountain will also make a three-way intersection. And I'm noticing that this won't close up nicely until the other two pleats of the hexagon are set up, just like the triangle wraps yesterday wouldn't close nicely until the triangle twist was fully set up. That was nearby. But with those twists and with those new pleats in place around the twist, we can get everything to lay down flat with the exception of the hexagon tower. And then we can bop it, grab it, sharp twist to get that hexagon down and flattened too. So now we've put in a hexagon, 6 triangles, and had pleat overlaps, 6 hexagons, and now we have 6 triangle wraps. We're going to finish the pattern by flipping back to the triangle side. All of these sides are exactly the same since we set up the triangle wraps in each of the 6 sides. And these are going to become open triangles. So we're going to shift the mountain fold 1 space over, put the valley 1 space on the far side of that shifted mountain, and press to squash our open triangle twists. We're going to do that on all 6 sides of our pattern, and that will get us to the end of today's tutorial. Now, I will say that this pattern, if you take it as an alternating pattern of closed hexagons on one side and open triangles on the other at tube pleat spacing, which is what I call the Hexagon Double Bar Wells pattern, that one predates my time folding tessellations. But that's not the only option you have when you're starting with this set of twists. You can do some other things with it too. And the particular example that I have right here says, oh, those triangles that we just folded, why do they have to be open? Why not make them closed? And if you make them closed, then you can kind of squish these repeats of that wheel motif closer together and get these areas where these hexagons are connected by 2 pleats with 1 space between them instead of pleats with 2 spaces between them. And you can create some really wild patterns that way. So with the end of our pattern for today, I want to show you what the backlighting looks like. So I'll grab a light there. And this pattern, as I mentioned earlier, can be continued as an alternating pattern. You'll notice the edge here is not aligned with the grid. So I decided to use a rotated grid to match the repeats with the edge instead of keeping the grid aligned with the edge. I also did that for this bigger pattern, which, like I said, has these same motifs, but then repeats a little differently. There's some different things going on in here, including some closed triangle twists on the back. So the 2 bigger patterns with repeats are the ones that you can find for today's patterns in the Advent of Tess ebook, which you can find at gatheringfolds.com and also origamiusa.org and origami-shop.com. And I encourage you to check out those patterns as well to see the different tiling diagrams of what can be done with different shapes. So the first 4 days we did all patterns with all triangles. These patterns use only hexagons and triangles, and they're connected, like I said, where all the hexagons go to triangles. All the pleats from hexagons go to triangles. All the pleats from triangles go to hexagons. And there are many more ways of connecting shapes that we'll get into in future patterns, future days of Advent of Tess. Tomorrow we're sticking with the hexagons and triangles though, but we're changing things up. We're using a different size of hexagon, the open hexagon, and we're putting the second set of hexagons on the back. So happy folding everyone, and see you back again tomorrow.